Get going in Facebook. Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening. It's an honor. It sounds like many of the people that are here already know Fritzi, and we look forward to having her knowledge, her wisdom, and certainly her talent in this area of aging in place. And what are we calling it now? The new age, the new face of aging in place. So we look forward to having you. And Fritzi, the floor is yours.
Okay. Would you like to share the screen? I did
You do.
a presentation.
You have it.
Okay, share screen. All right. So just bear with me, folks, while I get to the right spot here.
While you're doing that, I just want to let everybody know this is being recorded and will be posted in our groups so that you can view it again if you'd like.
Whoa. This is big on my screen. So thank you very much for giving me this chance to spend some time with you this afternoon. This is a couple of things up front, couple of notes up front. This is my first attempt at a presentation in the Canva format. So you can just kind of bear with me as I move through the slides, if you don't mind. The other thing is, and I just recently learned this again from a Zoom etiquette class, that there will be times when I don't look at the camera when I look down. I'm not checking my phone, just so you know. I am checking my notes to make sure that I share all the information that I'd like to with you this afternoon. So in the course of getting ready for today, Dawn and I were just talking about what it is about aging in place and kind of came up with this. So my hats off to you, Dawn, as well, for being in that creative moment with us.
Well, thank you.
For the new face of aging in place. And that's as we have come out of 2020 and out of 2021. So this is me. I am the Director of Education with Age Safe America, and my local business in California is Household Guardians. My book is Grace and Grit, Insights to the Real Life Challenges of Aging for Older Adults and Their Parents. And I am honored to have won several national book awards and one Canadian book award with the book. It's a chapter book, easy to read, and it was written to give grown children and their parents, especially this based on my work as a senior move manager, it was to give them a frame to be able to understand both their own point of view and the point of view of the other generation with these big life transition decisions. So that's the book. Small plug. Alrighty, so let's get started with today. And I'm going to give you the old facts first. So the old facts are 90% of people want to age in their own homes, and 85% have done nothing to get ready. So AARP did that 6 years ago. Also, some of our old facts relates to falls and how that relates to also our safety in our homes, which relates to our ability to age in place. So 1 in 3 over 65 will fall. Luckily, statistically, probably none of you will fall because I have now fallen statistically enough times to protect you all. So keep up your exercise, wear sturdy shoes, but statistically I have fallen for all of us. 1 in 2 over 80 will fall. Falls are also the leading cause of death among older adults. accounting for 70% of nursing home admissions, and fully 40% of people who fall and are injured will never really regain their independence. So one of the reasons too is that when we fall, that little gyroscope in our mind, right? So the purpose of our brain, no matter what we think it is, its major job is to keep us safe. And once it knows we have fallen, the brain will make very minor adjustments to how high we step, the length of our steps, and that, in an effort to keep us safe, oftentimes will also contribute to why we may fall again. So those are the old stats. The new ones are basically 90% of people want to stay home and nobody's done anything to prepare for it. The new facts are it's really not that different, right? People are still not taking the steps that they need to take, although they are beginning, and we are starting to see the vocabulary of aging in place and home safety in many more places. But the other, I'm sorry. The other new facts are that falls actually increased during COVID. That was counterintuitive to me. I thought if people were home, primarily, they would be safer. But as it turned out, our lack of exercise, we lost mobility, we lost strength. And so when the University of Michigan actually surveyed people from 2020 and 2021, more of them had actually fallen in or around their homes. But the other piece that was difficult was that fewer than 40% of them actually either sought or got timely medical evaluation or support. So people fell, lived with whatever the circumstances were, and did not get or even seek support. The other piece for us is related to falls. The overall healthcare costs nationally by 2030 are going to be $100 billion. So just last year, our healthcare system spent $60 billion, and that is only going to go up. All righty, that's my falls soapbox for you. But basically, a fall does change everything. And no matter which generation, that's where we're going next, that consideration is so important for all of us to keep in mind. So we're going to take a look at some of the new kind of out of 20 and 21. I'm going to move out of the sun a little bit here. Some new generational perspectives. Now we're still looking at the generations as the specific cohorts, and we are very familiar with many of those cohorts. The first is the greatest generation. So at this point, they are more frail. Their housing needs are related to increasing care needs. So it's either in their own home, with family, or in alternate settings. Now, again, now that we are relatively post-pandemic, the decisions, especially for this part of our population, about moving into assisted living communities, selling their homes and moving, that's still, it has lost its glow, it's lost its attractiveness, because we saw people living in communities, right? Forced to stay in their apartments, eating all of their meals on cardboard trays with plastic utensils for a year, for 18 months. And that's not the lifestyle that someone chose when they moved to a community. For working with this generation, the two key words that have always been important are legacy and control. And so now we want to look at how is their housing asset part of their legacy, and the decisions that they have about selling and moving or aging in place, they still want to have control over those decisions. They are undoubtedly the smallest percentage of folks who are actually buying and selling at this time, and are more likely to go into a senior related housing situation. So it could be just moving into a community with independent condos, homes, apartments, all just part of a 55 and over community, even at their ages, which so people are deciding at 80 to move or 85 to move. I just had an orthopedic surgeon say, you know, he does knee replacements on folks in their 90s who want to have a better knee. So for our boomers, and again, a shout out to Dawn for the ebook today about boomers and more of the analysis of the baby boomers. The first, our earliest baby boomers are already 70. So they are already making those kinds of thoughts and changes that they didn't when they became baby boomers, when they were 10 years ago, right? So they're already 70, 71, 72. Things may be changing, but by 2030, all of our baby boomers will be over 65. These early baby boomers are also more likely to look for a newer home when they decide to sell theirs. But for them, home modifications and aging in place needs to be presented as a valued investment in their homes. They are the longest term homeowners that we have. Now also more and more of them are caring for their parents. So there are, you know, numbers that had family returning also during the pandemic, but there are opportunities now to create the generational wealth through multi-generational housing, through other housing options. So does the code in your particular area, for example, permit the building of the accessory dwelling units, the granny flat, the casita, the conversion of part of the house for other family members that would make the transition of that house and that wealth in that family easier in that respect. Another thing about the baby boomers who are selling, that they are not really downsizing. So they are oftentimes looking for comparable square footage in their homes. And in spite of all the publicity about walkable and livable communities, they are not seeking the urban environment that the younger generations. So now, especially since we've come through these 2 years, they are not also automatically looking at the continuing care communities, assisted living, any of those. They're looking still for their own homes for their future. They're making decisions too to buy closer to family and friends. They are the most likely to have owned their homes longer than any other group. And what they're looking for in homes now, in the bath, it's the safety features. So it's the grab bars in the showers, it's the low threshold showers, walk-ins, things that are aesthetically attractive, but are the safety features as well. In kitchens, they're looking also for other accessibility features. The full pullouts, you know, some of the small features that make a kitchen more usable. And in general, they don't have a great long list of very specific kitchen features that they're shopping for. But again, it's ease of use. The visitability feature, is their home welcoming? Can people of all different abilities, so if someone's had knee replacement surgery, can they still visit? Can they get into the home and things? So for our boomers, that's many of their considerations. For our X's and Y's, right now, they are consistently about 25% of our home buyers with a willingness to spend more money or spending more money on average for their homes. They are faced now with aging parents, but they also are faced with their other work-life challenges. So the office is at home, school is at home. So they need to look at flex spaces. And as we're looking at people's homes and working with them to find the right home, we want to be able to find those spaces that will allow them to be creative inside their new home situation. The other piece for aging in place, as it relates to multi-generational families especially, is a new focus on the need for privacy as well as common spaces. That each of the generations needs its private space, and early when people started to work from home and school from home, everybody was all of a sudden, everybody was in the dining room or everybody was in the living room, and trying to find that privacy, trying to find those separate spaces wasn't easy. So identifying that it's important to develop what those privacy and common spaces look like for, especially for those buyers. Their preferences, apparently on the bath side as well, is related to privacy. So his and her bathrooms, different kinds of features than you might have thought from years before. They are also looking for upgrades in the kitchen. So they are looking for those additional appliances, those additional features like the trash compactor, the double island, ovens with multiple features in them as well. So they also, what's interesting is this generation, as they're looking to move into the home, they're also looking at a 20-year span, as opposed to boomers who are looking to buy or sell or move. They're looking at a 10-year span and not past that. So our Gen X's and Y's are looking 20 years out. Then we have our millennials. Right now, they're the largest percentage of home buyers. Many are looking for their first home, and they expect to live in the house 10 years. Interesting. 40% of them will also customize their new environment. So they're looking for, upgraded bath features, skylights, etc. Again, in the kitchen, they're looking for the same features that the Gen X's are, the Gen Ys, the additional appliances with upgrades. But clearly, the home office is vital, and their outdoor spaces, their ability to use and create their flex spaces in different parts of the home. So it's not just inside, but also outside as well. Don, I'm happy to take some questions or just move through a few more slides.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to open up your mic.
All right, while you're thinking of questions, I'll move along just through some more of the training opportunities. So I offer the Certified Aging in Place Specialist training through Household Guardians. It's a 3-day course sponsored by the National Association of Home Builders and offers continuing ed units for many professionals in healthcare and design as well. So that information is available through householdguardians.com. Oops, sorry, folks. And through Age Safe America, we offer the Senior Home Safety Specialist certification, which is a comprehensive 5-hour online course with the Senior Home Safety Specialist emblem for marketing. And we have a code in the registration process, EXP100, so that members of the EXP team can save $100 on that training. The Senior Home Safety Specialist training is a complement to the longer CAPS training, and is also CEUs for many professionals. So it is CEUs if you are a CSA, if you already have taken the CAPS training, it's also CEUs for CAPS as well. As well as many of the healthcare professionals. So nurses, kinesiotherapists, occupational therapists. We've worked hard to broaden the reach for that training.
It was a great training. I did it all day Saturday, and by far I got a lot out of it. So thank you for the course. It was excellent.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So here's my phone number. You can call or text me. The office number is the 800 number. And I'm available at Fritzi at Household Guardians or Fritzi at Age Safe. So my two hats. But so in terms of back to what the new face of aging in place is, every one of us is the new face of aging in place. And I think the vocabulary for where we're going with that, the increase of the use of the universal design vocabulary for people to understand more about having the components in their home that make it easier for them to stay and easier for them to sell when they move. All righty, so somebody's got to have a question.
Well, I've got a question. I got a question for you.
Thank you, Eve.
This is Debbie.
Oh, Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
So how can you tell realtors to encourage customers that we know are to the point that they either have to move or do substantial changes in the house tactfully? Because we go into houses all the time here and they say, well, I'm just looking at my options, you know, that routine. And then when you're looking at the house, they have nothing set up that they can walk with the walker, much less any other grab bars or anything else. And they don't understand that they got to make some decisions pretty quick because they're hobbling around and everything else. I'm just trying to figure it out. My dad's 97 and he's a total nightmare. You would love to see his house. But it's, you know, I see it every day here, and we can't tactfully say you got to move or you got to do something. But you know, then the kids get involved, and I got one right now. I was telling Donald about, they dragged her back to Ohio, and they've got nothing set up for her. But still, yeah, she's in Ohio now.
Yeah, it's funny because those of us who have been adult children trying to do the right thing, sometimes we can be nightmares, just honestly. But in terms of answering your question, for someone who is in their home, one way to begin to talk with them is to ask them if there are things that they used to do that they are having more trouble doing now, or is there a hobby that they can't do? And is there another way? So it's, it's kind of asking them, are there things that they're willing to concede are more difficult? And sometimes the easiest thing is to just add some motion sensor lights to light up some pathways. Or another thing that I've done is I take a tape measure and I open it up and lock it in at either 32 inches for doorways or 36 inches. 32 inches is usually enough to kind of make the point. And then we just kind of walk around and look at the distance between the furniture. Like, let's just look at the pathway. And do you have 32 inches that's clear down your hallway? Or is there a clutter? Or have you put furniture in your hallway and now narrowed that space? I mean, sometimes we can't do anything about the fact that the bathroom door is too narrow right away, but at least being able to understand how they can move safely in the house, being able to walk around with a tape measure. And sometimes when I have an adult child there with the parents, or asking me to look at the house before a parent comes back from rehab, sometimes I keep them busy by having them take the tape measure around and kind of begin to see what that looks like and where the trouble spots might be. So if you can get them engaged, another way to do it without the whole tape measure is to put your hands on your hips and walk through the doors and see what that's like. Because you'll see right away, if your elbows bump, if you can't get through that doorway, then there's going to be a challenge when there's some other assistive device that's needed.
Fritzi, I have a question for you.
Yes, Kelly.
Um,
I said, it says Kelly on your name on the bottom there, so.
okay, great. They got it right. Hey, are people driving longer these days? I was just curious if you knew the answer to that. I would bet yes.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we just have the population that's simply aging. So yes, people are driving a lot longer. My advice to someone who thinks they may have to take the keys away, this is as an aside, is if you're going to take away the keys, then practice for yourself what the alternative is going to look like. If you say, oh, Dad, you can just catch the bus on the corner, you go and try and catch the bus on the corner, right? You and Dad go catch the bus on the corner and see what that's like. But yes, absolutely. And in your area, if AARP is offering their car fit program, that's a wonderful recommendation to make for folks, because it's a 12-point check of how someone sits in their car. That really, they have a person who's trained to do the measurements, like where their eye levels are, how their seats should be adjusted, how the mirrors should be adjusted for them to drive more safely. Now, if someone like my mom was legally blind and driving, my compromise with her was 5 miles on the back roads, not on a foggy day, never at night. And so she would drive to the park to walk with her friends, drive to the school for the blind to volunteer, and drive to the senior center to volunteer. Never to attend, only to volunteer and work.
Well, Fritzi, I'll tell you a story. My mother-in-law was, had Alzheimer's. And so I actually had to take her car away, because not only would she not remember where she went, but when she went there and went out to look for the car, she'd look for a blue car when her car was silver. So you can imagine, I mean, it wasn't fun. And there were nights that I had to go out and find her. And whoa, that really, and then eventually because of the memory care issue, she had to live in assisted, living. We
Yeah.
could not keep our eyes on her 24/7. And it was a huge educational situation for everybody in our family. Incredible. And as a result, I learned all about it. So hopefully it'll make me a better realtor,
Yeah, and actually, this is an opportunity for you to be able to share those things that you've learned. I mean, one of the things in the senior home safety specialist is there's a section of home safety questions specifically for the Alzheimer's and the dementias about safety things to look for in the home. And so there's a couple of modules about that because there are, you just can't keep eyes on them long enough. And back to my mom, she had low vision, but her friend couldn't remember. So her friend would drive them places, and then my mother would have to find the car in the parking lot. I mean, it was the buddy system, so people make it work when they have to, but I understand that in addition to that, you have an opportunity to share those lessons too in like family support groups for other folks with those challenges. So I'm a big proponent of sharing personal with other folks going through that challenge. Thank you for the question.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, I'll just jump in with something that I just had an inkling when you mentioned that the boomer generation, or is it the older ones, are not looking in urban situations, urban locations, and it seemed like that they should think a little bit more about urban situations. Is that true? Are there more benefits, do you think?
Well, certainly, the whole social isolation and access to activities, all of the kinds of things that people who are proponents of urban environments are recommending. And, developers are building these communities with the mini villages right in the communities. And here in Southern California with no parking, by the way. So having a car would be practically impossible anyway. But from the couple of reports that I read, boomers, if they've lived out of town, many of them still want to live out of town. And yeah, I mean, you can talk to them about moving into the city, but for folks who are, maybe somebody else has other experience in terms of talking folks into it, but yeah, it just from the information that I've been reading lately is when they sell, they want basically the same size, but closer to family and friends.
Well, I can't tell you how on point you were with all those things, because my husband happens to be a very young, he's entering into that 70-year-old kind of thing, and we have been thinking of moving, and it's like boom, 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 owned the home a long time, not necessarily seeking urban, want to basically the same size, but we want the upgrades, we don't want to work too hard, so it's very true, I think, and thank you for that. Okay, that's all I have to say.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what people are, at least what I come across is what people want, as Fritzi mentioned, they want newer homes because they don't want the maintenance, they don't want the headaches, they don't want all those things in place, but yet they still want the space, they want the room, they want their own room for various reasons. And they just want to be able to have the flexibility and room to get around. I think at one point, the thought of downsizing, I think today scares people. I think they look at it as you're putting me in a prison kind of situation. You're putting me in confined space by getting too small, especially. One of the challenges we have here in the villages is people typically move 3 times.
Wow.
And when you think about seniors moving 3 times, it's like, the common statement I always hear is, well, I've come to find my resting spot, right? This is going to be my last home. I never plan on moving again. And of course, I tell them, yeah, I hear that from everybody. And we certainly know it's not their final resting spot, but it certainly could be their final home. The problem is they move from a 3,000 square foot home and they say, we don't need all that space. The kids are gone. It's just the 2 of us or just me. And okay, I only need 1,500 square feet. They get here and they say, no, we bought too small. We need something bigger. We still need our space and room to move around. So they go and they move up, and they might move up to that 2,000, 2,100 square foot size home. And then they start realizing, well, Sally just bought over here and they've got a beautiful neighborhood and people are friendly. And then the next thing you know, they're selling to move over where Sally moved to because they're friends. So it's kind of interesting to see how, when they were thinking when they were first moving in, is that this is my final home, to now we've moved 3 times and for various reasons. And on the flip side of that is, they might have come down from a home that was 3,000 square feet and they moved down to, maybe a 2,000 square foot home thinking they were truly downsizing. And then sometimes they realize that that's still too big, that they don't need that much space, that they really only need a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. So
storage.
It's kind of interesting. But the golf cart space is a must. Gotta have a golf cart garage, and or only 1 car and a golf cart. So it's interesting to see how people tend to change their viewpoints on what it is that they want. So as realtors, we need to look at it and go, okay, what are the real signs that they're telling me that they really want versus what they absolutely want? Because what happens is what we see is they think they know what they want, but reality is often something different.
Yeah.
And we as realtors tend to have to read between those lines to try to really understand how that's going to work. And I see that in going from community to community as well. As people tell you things, they may not want that busy community. They may want a community that is just relaxed, but has options to do different games and different clubs and swimming and golf, but they don't want the bigger community. So, that's what I see oftentimes, is that people are not sure. And sometimes you as the realtor have to guide them to what you believe they want. And oftentimes I believe your judgment will be much better than theirs, because let's face it, they've lived in the same home for 20 or 30 years. So they don't really know much more than what they've lived in. And things have changed. Let's face it, things have changed in the last 20, 30, 40 years. So it's important. It's important to realize that, we're consultants at the end of the day for our customers, and to really understand where they are physically and mentally, because as Fritzi was saying, the physical part of this is just, it seems like it's almost inevitable that we're going to need some of these things, grab bars, more lighting, things like that. Just the fact of the matter is we're going to need it, whether it's us or our parents. I hear my son every once in a while, he'll say, Dad, I'm going to have to change your diaper one day. And I'm like, I hope not. But the fact is, it may happen. Hopefully not. But
Yeah, well, one thing to follow up with your comment is Daniel Pink wrote that we as humans are terrible predictors of our own future and our own happiness. That we see things in others, we think about things, we watch lessons being learned by others, but we are absolutely terrible predictors for ourselves. And I think that goes to your point, where we think we know what we want with the next move, but we kind of don't. And the blessing in your business is that you've seen every kind of family situation and client, I'm sure, in the course of your careers. And many of us also believe that we're individuals. And so that was one of the premises of my book. When someone goes to meet with a marketing person at an assisted living community, and they'll say, you know, I'm sure you see 30 people a day, but our family is different. Yeah, no, I mean, the person sitting across the table from them smiles, does not roll their eyes back, but a lot of families are the same. You know, a lot of us have, you know, the reason that the server or the waiter or waitress recommends something is odds are other people have really enjoyed it. And what we will do is choose something different because we think we won't like what everybody else likes. But the fact of the matter is, we probably would, you know, and yes, I think being able to help discern that, and it also goes back to the question earlier about how to have that conversation with people and be able to talk about, you know, what is it that you can't do as easily now, or, you know, what are those hobbies that you really want to participate in. But I think the idea of being able to discern whether someone wants a quieter community or an active community, all of that is absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Feel free to open up your mic.
I know one of the things that I try to find out when people are coming from wherever to here in the villages is you've had all these years to work and not have fun. What do you want to do for fun? You know, what have you always thought about doing or taking back up or having more time to do or whatever? Because I have a friend, she gave up driving just because her car was not working well. And she decided that she was too old for it. Now she's 76. To me, I better have a car at 76. I'll be one of the most miserable people in the world if I don't have a car at 76. But she won't do anything. And then she sits around and whines and complains that she's bored. And I said, there's plenty of places and things to do to have fun. Now she lives not in a 55 plus community, but that's how you age so much quicker. When you sit around and you think about all the negatives of the world and complain about being bored and whatever else you can complain about, she's just a miserable person. Now, my dad was independent till 96 years old and now complains because he's in a nursing home at the age of 97. And I said, Dad, be thankful that you had 96 years of being thankful, of being independent. But he can't adjust to that either. So there is no easy way to help people. But, you know, I know looking at what we've been through here in the villages, I have started making changes to my own house and I'm 63, but I don't want to wait to the point where I have to, you know, be in desperation to find handyman Joe to put a grab bar in for me. So
right. No, it's excellent because the simple changes that we make now, every one that we do now just saves us from having to make one in the future. And being able to kind of make that checklist and you know, make a simple change a month, or do the, you know, the seasonal upgrades and the, you know, the maintenance, changing the air filters, just, you know, kind of keeping things going so that they don't get so far out of hand either. But yeah, a lot of you know I have a grab bar soapbox that I stand on, so I encourage everybody to get them.
Well, if there's no other questions, we'll cut it short and give everybody back 13 minutes of their day.
Okay. Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fritzi, for coming and doing the presentation. Thank you, everyone else. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Fritzi.
evening. Have a wonderful rest of the week. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.